Welcome to On the Bubble Podcast, episode 149. I'm your host, Balsa J. Wade, and with me is my co-host, Yuki Lee Bender. Today, we're just going to be doing a coverage on the PT Las Vegas, and we're also going to just be going through how Yuki did in this event as well. I also went down to PT Las Vegas, but I only went down there for the calling. My results, man, it was actually such a great event for me. I had so much fun playing Arachne Huntsman, except I kind of tilted off and then played very poorly into some players in the calling, which resulted me in playing a lot of side events. But that's not what we're going to be focusing on today. Today we're going to be talking about your run, Yuki. I guess before we talk about the actual events, how was your Vegas trip?
My Vegas trip was good. I got in Sunday night, Monday morning, kind of like around 1. So I was there for basically a full week. I didn't get up to too much besides like hanging out with the team and doing stuff like that and playing a whole bunch of Fab. But it was nice to get there early, do some testing, figure out what deck to play. I was kind of between like Marionette, Syndra, Kasai, Acilio, one of those four. But I really didn't know what to play after the BNR, and I ended up eventually setting on Marionette after maybe about a day and a half of testing. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. The team house was really good, and our testing team did great. I was really, really proud. I think we had 6 in the top 64 and 3 in the top 9. So yeah, it was a great event for us.
Yeah, no, you guys did very, very well this event. A lot of you guys played very different decks this time around. Was there like no consensus between the team on like what the best deck would be?
Yeah, our assessment was that the meta was pretty open. There was a lot of viable picks, so a lot of people were kind of picking things that they felt comfortable with. There was a little bit of moving around, but I don't think we had more than maybe 2 or 3 people on any given deck. So yeah, it was kind of a cool event. This event kind of like highlighted something for me that I've been feeling for a while, where I would really like to see tier 4s a little bit earlier, closer to set release. I think it would be more exciting. You'd see more decks that people weren't expecting. The draft format would be a little bit less solved. And, I think this event, like we had a huge shakeup with Victor LL, Prism LL, and Remembrance Ban, and people didn't really know what to expect. And then we got like double Betsy top 8. That was hype. We got 3 Acilios, all on different builds. And then we got a little bit of what you'd expect as well. And I think like that was really exciting. And I feel most of our pro tours, you look at the top 8 and you're just like, yup, it's what everybody expected. There's nothing like that spicy or that exciting. Whereas this event, I feel like we'll get into it when we talk about the metagame, but I had some predictions. Some of them were on point. Some of them were a little bit off point. It was just very hard to guess the metagame because all we had to go off of was the calling in Japan. But anyways, there was just like one calling to go off of. So yeah, I would love to see like a little bit earlier in the cycle pro tours.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I actually enjoyed this format a lot too. It was kind of like the most fun I've had playing CC in the longest number of times. Big part of it being Arachne Huntsman being really playable in this format. But I guess the biggest question would be, how much was Betsy on your guys' radar? Because Betsy has to be the breakout deck of kind of like this Pro Tour and calling. I think it was Shinjuku, right? Like, was Betsy on your guys' like list of decks to be tested and like rigorously just like making sure that you guys knew that matchup?
Not really. Like, so we kind of talked about Betsy. She got the log, and of course, Talk a Big Game got unbanned, and she has evasion. So there was some discussion of like, which Guardian is good when Victor's gone? Could it be Betsy? There's a little bit of initial exploration, but it kind of stopped there. The calling decks did well, or the calling deck did well. There was one in top 8 in Shinjuku, so it wasn't like a total surprise, but that was also the weekend that we were going there, and I don't think anybody, well, actually, I know nobody had the deck with them. We kind of talked about it as a deck that might show up and something that we might test on Talishar since we didn't have the paper decks. But I don't think anybody actually ended up getting games into this deck. So it was sort of like on our radar, but I think we backburnered it a little bit. And I think that was definitely maybe a bit of a miss on our part. But I also think this is why fresh metagames are kind of exciting, is like the time felt limited. It felt like there was only so many matchups you could cover, and you have to make some tough choices. And I think that that's like, to me, that's really interesting. I like when that time resource is a little bit more stretched rather than just. I feel like some of these pro tours, it's just for both limited and constructed, we've known everything for so long that it's like, uh, you can just grind all the matchups. Everything is like super, super refined, and that has its own appeal. I think there are definitely players that will prefer that, but I kind of like when things are a little bit, people are working with what they have and people are trying to fill in their gaps. I think that's just very cool.
That makes sense. I kind of enjoy that as well, being like not everything is solved already. Let's before we move on, do you want to do a quick Patreon shout out, and then we'll talk about the metagame right after that?
Yeah, so thank you to all of our patrons who give back to the show. We couldn't be doing what we're doing without you. And quite a few people came up to me this weekend, said hi, mentioned they were a fan of the podcast, or mentioned that they had done coaching with me, and it was really nice to meet everybody who did come up. So thank you to everyone who came up and said hi. That's always a highlight for us at events. If you want to check us out, you can find us on patreon.com/onthebobble. Some of the lower tiers, the cracked bauble and holiday bauble tiers, give a little bit back, cost about the price of a cup of coffee. And then if you go for the titanium bauble tier, you get access to regular content that gets published. Right now, there is a Syndra guide. I will be releasing some marionette content. So I was playing marionette at the PT. And then the Heart of Final and Eye of Ophidia tiers have some monthly coaching sessions attached to them. So if you're interested in any of that, you can check us out, patreon.com/onthebobble. And if you're not one of our patrons, but you're one of our listeners, we also really, really appreciate you. And again, couldn't be doing what we're doing without you. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the show. And we're glad that you get value out of it. If you want to buy some singles, consider buying from Invasion. You can find them invasioncnc.ca and use code YLB5 for 5% off on your cart on all singles. And that also lets them know that we sent you. And this is another way to support us if you're buying some singles, as well as a way to save a little bit of cash as well.
Yeah, I've also gotten a couple of people come up and talk to me, mostly people randomly sitting beside me, probably recognizing my voice. And it was great to hear from you guys and just like let us know that you're actually listening to the podcast. So it was a great experience. But that aside, let's talk about the metagame. This metagame was very diverse in the sense of lots and lots of different heroes that was being played at this PT today. Most represented deck, Arachne Marionette, the deck you played. Going down from that at 13% is Acilio with 52 copies at 13%, and then Yarrow at 47 with 11%. So, was this the 3 decks you were expecting to come out of this tournament?
Yes and no. I did expect Marionette to be high up. I expected Jarl to be relatively represented. I thought Acilio might fall off, but it was also just so popular across Nat season that I wasn't sure if people would quite adapt. I didn't think it was a very good choice. And then, of course, 3 of them make top 8, so it shows what I know. So yeah, I don't know if I thought this would be the exact order. And I also thought Syndra would probably be in this mix. I kind of thought maybe it would be like Marionette, Syndra, Jarl, and then like Acilio a little bit lower, kind of like Ricochet is at with like 37 copies, 9%, somewhere around there. And then Syndra in these top 3, but Syndra was all the way at 21 copies and 5%, which was a lot less than I expected from her.
Okay, interesting. And then you expected Kasai at 9% at 37 copies. And then right next to her is Dash IO as well at 31 copies at 7%. You kind of expected these two to be just like straggling along, making sure that like, there's going to be some people playing these decks too.
Yeah, I thought so. They seem like strong choices. Kasai had great results at Shinjuku. Dash IO seems like a good choice for the event, but also Marionette and Jarl are around, and playing into those fatigue matchups is something that is quite taxing and not always reliable. So I figured, your Sam Sutherlands, your Ian Jungs, the people with a lot of experience on Dash IO would possibly show up on her. But for people who maybe aren't as familiar with the deck, you might opt for a different choice. I even found myself in this. I was like, maybe I'll play Dash IO. And then I thought about playing into Jarls and Huntsmans. I was like, even Kasai is like a little bit tricky. And it was just like, maybe I pick something different.
Yeah, and you're gonna be playing a lot of rounds with the same deck too, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing is sometimes you beat it, but it can be very taxing. And, you play like Jarl, Huntsman, Jarl in the first 3 rounds, and that can expend most of your brain power for the day. But you still have 2 more CC rounds and a full draft to actually, yeah, 2 more CC rounds and a full draft to complete, and that's a lot. So yeah, I think that kind of mental fatigue aspect is definitely a consideration for some of these decks, and Dash.io is definitely one of those.
And then right underneath them, we've already talked about Syndra, but we also have Arachne Huntsman with 20 copies, and then Gravy Bones is 17 copies at 5 and 4% respectively. Yeah, Huntsman coming up with in the play rate. I know our friend Nia ended up playing Huntsman. Did you guys think that Huntsman was kind of like creeping up into the playability area too?
Yeah, we also had Huntsman on our radar. Played quite a bit of games into Huntsman. I think both because Neil was working on the deck, so he wanted reps, but also people recognizing it as a strong choice. Kind of makes a lot of sense, right? Huntsman was doing well. Then Victor kind of showed up and was like, "I have a better end game. You can't beat me." And then now that Victor's gone, Huntsman's an option again. So yeah, Huntsman was on our radar. I thought there might even be a teeny bit more Huntsman. And I think this is kind of the primary reason I evaluated Acilio to not be that good was the combination of Syndra and Huntsman expecting to be a little bit higher. And if you're on the aggro Acilio, the Jarl matchup is also a little tough. So yeah, that's kind of why I steered away from Acilio. But yeah, I think actually Acilio kind of wrapped around to being a pretty decent choice, especially the Arcane variant. That there's 2 different ones, but yeah, the Arcane variants actually seem like quite a good choice for this event.
Okay, actually, let's talk about that a little bit because I think that might be the most interesting part about how the Acilio deck came out to be. Was that out of these 13% of Acilio, the 52 copies, there was a lot of different type of Acilio being played. I think even in the side events that I was playing, I actually didn't even play a single aggro Acilio player. I played almost solely arcane Acilio, and it kind of feels like that this like arcane based Acilio deck is taking up about like half of the decks that are like the actual Acilio decks, which means that like it feels like there's like 5% of the like aggro Acilio and another 5% of the spell Acilio, and you kind of didn't know which one that you were playing against. And that may be one of like the biggest edges that Acilio had going into this event.
Yeah, I agree with that. I felt like there was a little more aggro Acilio than Arcane Acilio, but there was more Arcane Acilio in the top 8 of the PT. I don't know about side events, so I'm sure it could be different. But yeah, I felt like there was a little more aggro Acilio, but definitely scouting really important at this event. Trying to figure out what people were on was huge, and having a plan that kind of hedges and is okay in the blind into both of them, I think was also really, really important. Decks are very interesting. They have very different strengths. I think that the aggro Acilio deck is like really explosive, pretty consistent, pretty good into like a lot of the more, I guess, aggressive matchups. And then the Arcane Acilio variant actually surprisingly very good into fatigue, being able to just go over the top of what they're able to stop, even with very high AB. You kind of just like strip their hands of resources and then deal damage on their turn. So that was like a little surprising. And then also good into Marionette, especially if they don't know how to board into you, where because you never get to block with Mask of Deceit, even if you replace that with AB1, your Chelicera is really unreliable. You basically have to either roll a 3 on Orb Weaver or find an Orb Weaver Spinneret, which is a 3 of in your deck. So you're kind of on this like weird clock of like how fast do I find Orb Weaver? And if you find it pretty quick, the matchup's very solid, maybe even favored for you if you find it immediately. But every turn you don't find it, it gets much, much tougher. So Acilio actually like very good, not many predators. The one matchup you really don't want to see, maybe 2 matchups, is Syndra, and especially Syndra and a little bit of Dash.io as well is like not fantastic for you. Syndra is sort of like you're playing Verdance into Syndra, but you never draw the Fellings and Plows, and you only ever draw the Burn Bears.
That is kind of disastrous.
Yeah, you just kind of lose to Claw and Serikais. It feels like it's like, oh, I'm like 3 points short, and you just like look at their Claw and Serikais. Like, I see.
And I guess the last hero to talk about, other than Betsy, would be Gravy Bones, because we did see a Gravy Bones in the top 8 of this event as well. But there was only 4% of people, 17 players that brought Gravy Bones. My expectation on Gravy Bones was that this deck was going to be kind of falling off in this metagame. But kind of I got proven wrong. There was one in the top 8 of the PT still. Did you guys think that Gravy Bones was also going to be quite powerful still?
Yeah, I think Gravy Bones sort of makes sense where it landed. We thought that it was a solid choice. Again, this kind of discussion about like mental fatigue came up with Gravy, where you have to work so hard for all your games, and you have quite a few tough matchups where you really, really have to sweat it out. Jarl can be very tough depending on when they destroy your compass. Acilio is close but not easy. Kasai is actively hard. Syndra is hard. Huntsman, regardless of whether you think that matchup is close or favored or whatever, I've heard different opinions on it. Regardless of all of that, it takes a lot of energy to win that matchup as Gravy. So I think that Gravy was just very taxing, and many of the people who maybe have played Gravy in our group in the past were just like, oh, I don't want to play Gravy into this meta. So I think maybe a similar thing to Dash.io going on here, except you don't even get the short games. Like Dash.io, you play an aggro deck, you get a short game, whereas I think Gravy is just kind of a grind the whole way. So I think a few people that really were devoted to Gravy have been playing that deck for a long time, stuck to their guns on it. But it doesn't surprise me that not that many people actually wanted to play Gravy, even if he was an okay choice.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, then we're gonna talk on forever if we talk about all the other heroes. So I think we'll just stop here, unless there's a specific hero you want to talk about.
I don't think so.
If it comes up,
Yeah, maybe a conversion. This will come back. I will just say that it was very cool to see a whole bunch of other decks in, I don't know, top tables, close to top tables, or doing well in the calling. Like we had a Ziggy in the finals of the calling. I think Brody top 16 on Vinset. There was a Phi near the top tables for quite some time. There was an Ira in the top 20. So yeah, a lot of these heroes were just solid choices, which was very, very neat to see. So this felt like you could play a lot of heroes. I also heard there was an Aurora doing well at this event too. So yeah, just it felt like there was a ton of decks that you could play, and that was very cool to see.
yeah. I think there's like what 22 plus 10 is 32 different heroes being played in this event. So, and the most representative deck being only 13% of the metagame. That's even if you played, let's say, 9 games of CC, you're only expected to play like one of these heroes, like at most. So it's a very diverse format right now, mostly at this PT.
Yeah. Oh, and two Dorenthia in the top 8 of the calling too. So yeah, just like a whole bunch of decks doing well. Yeah.
Yeah, right before Mastery Pack Warrior is coming out too. So maybe Dorenthia becomes like a powerhouse once Warrior Pack comes out.
Yeah, and I think Kasai almost certainly will, although she won't be here very long. I think she's at like 978 or something LL points, so she'll be gone very quickly. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's like one PQ season. She's gone.
That's like probably 1 week of PQs, yeah. Or if she wins another calling between now and then, she could be gone. I think there's 3 callings where Mastery Pack Warrior is legal, so.
Okay, interesting. Then I guess we'll just talk about some of the actual rounds that you played, Yuki. Mostly day 1. The first 5 rounds of this event was CC. You guys also played 3 rounds of draft on the first day. I guess first off, man, what a run, Yuki. You start 8-0 day 1 of the Pro Tour. One of 2 people, looks like Matthew Dilks was also one of the 8-0 players after day 1. So how did that day go for you? I know obviously it went great, but how are you feeling? And kind of what was in your mind going through that first day of the PT?
Yeah, going into it, I was feeling like pretty ready, pretty confident on Marionette. Not a deck I've played the most of, but I kind of had enough reps on it and enough reps against it that I felt like I could pick it up, play it, knew the game plans into the key matchups, and the other matchups, it just felt like I could rely on Marionette being very powerful and the deck pulling me through. I played against a lot of decks that I was familiar with, which was nice. I believe I played against a Syndra, two Asilios, a Huntsman. Oh, and I forget the last matchup. But yeah, it was a lot of decks that I had prepared against, which was nice, and it kind of felt like the games more or less played out how I expected them to. Did have a very close call into the Huntsman where I nearly fatigued when we were at time. We ended up playing out the final turn because neither of us were sure. I had Tarantula Toxin, they had a D-React. The D-React saved them. And then I put them in a spot where I swung Clave for 0, and they chose to block on the Clave expecting a reaction, but I didn't have a reaction. I had a Leave No Witnesses, and the Leave No Witnesses was exact lethal. But if they saved the card, they would have lived, and then we would have drawn. I would have conceded in that spot if I could, but you can't concede once you're past time. So that was a very close call. Also had a very close one into Syndra where I was quite behind and managed to find a codex for CNC when I knew they had a D-React parked in Arsenal that was able to kind of turn the game around. But yeah, I had some very close games in the CC portion, but I felt like I was just playing well and drawing kind of the right cards in the right spots. Going into draft, my draft is actually the featured pod. I'm not the featured drafter. Michael Hamilton is, but I'm passing directly to him.
Oh, draft one?
Draft one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Michael Hamilton's the featured drafter. I'm passing directly to him. So you don't see my draft, but you see all the cards I pass. I start out with, I think it's Meteoric Impact and then Comet Collision. Those are my first two picks, regardless of the order. Comet Collision, Meteoric Impact. I just kind of feel like they're the best cards in the pack. And then pack 3, I have a very interesting pick where I'm kind of between Constella Constella Flow Slide, the one that makes a lightning flow, which I think is a solid Acilio card, but not the greatest. Or I can take a yellow Space Dust, which is definitely the stronger card in the pack. That being said, I've already been in the Acilio seat, and going into this, I was sort of like, had a preference to not draft Ziggy. I feel like Ziggy is sort of the most can go wrong when you draft it. And at 8-0, if I can get like a clean 2-1, I'd be very happy. So I didn't really want to draft Ziggy unless it was super open. Getting past a rare pack 3 is one of the places where maybe I would consider it. But I decided to stick to my guns, pick up the Constella Flow Slide, and put Hamilton into Ziggy. I know he quite likes that hero. And then I think I picked up 2 more flow slides over the next 2 picks. And part of the evaluation of flow slide was that there was only Acilio blues left in that pack after that. So I felt like I did a pretty good job cutting it if I cut the flow slide. Fast forward, Acilio was very open. And something I didn't realize until very late pack 3 was that I was actually the only Acilio in the pod.
Yeah, I think I remember watching like a little bit of the stream here and there, and I look over on one of the screens and I see 8 players on this draft pod, and we see the breakdown for the draft pod. And then I'm just like, wow, Yuki Lee Bender, Singleton Acilio in this draft format. And we're just like, how did that happen? Because, we talk on this podcast and like we keep on saying like Acilio was probably going to be one of those decks that kind of needed to be like the 2 of or the 3 of, right? For the power level of that hero in itself. And you being the only one on that draft pod, how powerful was your deck?
My deck was kind of absurd. I was like cutting very, very good cards in my deck just because I had so many playables. My biggest weakness was that I actually only had 2 equipment. I think I had a piece of Seekers and I had the Wizard Gloves. In pack 3, I had an opportunity to take the Tiara instead of a red Comet Collision. But at the time, I thought I was a 2 of Acilio, not a solo Acilio. And then I got pack 3, pick 8, red Flashbolt. And I wheeled like red chromatic refinement, red comet collision, I forget what else. I got a last pick Onion Surge. It was when I hit the wheel that I realized I was truly the only one left. I think I got like a red duality in there as well. So my deck was completely insane. I was basically playing all reds and blues, and my yellows were like yellow Comet Collision and dualities and Constello Flow Slides. And core reactions. I had two yellow core reactions and red Flashbolt, red Suture. And basically all of my spells were just like the super premium spells.
Yeah, that's kind of like the ideal spot to be in at like 5-0 at the Pro Tour. You have this deck. What was your like thoughts? Like, were you like expecting to 3-0 this pod?
I definitely knew that I had a very, very good shot at 3-0ing the pod, and I felt very good. I think what I was saying about about my deck was that I felt like it was probably the best deck that I've drafted in this format, even despite it having two pieces of equipment. I think it was just that good, and it just kind of had enough raw power level that I think not having, if I had the equipment, it would just be completely ridiculous. But even without it, the deck was just so powerful. I was just able to kind of blow people up. My games into Hamilton and Daniel Rutowski, which were both on Ziggy, were actually relatively close. The Rutowski game is not on stream, but the Hamilton game is. They kind of got a little more aggressive than I was expecting and pressured my life total, and I did end up getting fairly low in both of these games, but I was able to just kind of push through with very big arcane. So yeah, I'd say the draft went about as well as it could have. And I was very, very pleased with my deck. I think Aselio was my favorite of the heroes to play. If you gave me my choice of like, you get a really good deck in one of these heroes, which one do you want? I'd probably pick Aselio.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. When you played your second core reaction on stream, I was like, oh wow, what a deck this looks like. It's yeah, I was pretty happy when I saw like the cards that you were playing and how powerful each of these cards were. And honestly, both a lot of your draft games are on the stream. So if you guys are interested in watching them, you will be able to just like seek past it and just find Yuki's games on there as well.
Yeah, I think I have like the final match of this pod, and then I have two games on the second day. So yeah, there's quite a bit of draft, and even a lot of my CC games are actually on the stream as well later in the day of day two.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you start 8-0 in a tournament, Yuki.
Yeah, yeah. I wish that I just kept winning so that they didn't have to put me on for like the winning in or like, you know, that the like very close game where somebody's going to get in top 8 and then it's not me, and then I'm in that spot again and then it's not me, and then I'm in that spot again and it's not me, and I wind up ninth. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done much in my stream losses. Maybe a few minor decisions I could have changed, but nothing that would have changed the outcome of any of those games. So I feel pretty good about how I played. The mistake I made, the big mistake I made, was into Noah Clark, who ended up making top 8 on Gravy. I think I definitely had a much better line where basically I just need to not shuffle, but we can get to that game in a little bit. Yeah, I just make a pretty big punt in that game, but I think other than that, I'm very happy with how I played.
Then I guess right before we talk about that game, day 2, you're 8-0. You start the day at day 2 of PT with a draft again, and this time you were the feature drafter.
Yes, I was the feature drafter, so you can see all my picks going into this. I already mentioned kind of not wanting to draft Ziggy in the first draft, and I even more don't want to draft Ziggy in the second draft now that I'm 8-0. So I'm kind of going into this draft being like, I want to be Acilio or Aurora, and I don't want to be Ziggy, which I think is fine. I think that's kind of like where my comfort is in this format, and I felt like drafting Ziggy just is leaving a lot of things potentially up to chance. So I open up Visionary of Orbits, pack 1, pick 1 as a strong kind of like open pick. And then I believe as early as pack 1, pick 2, I pick up a red Path of Same Ends as just kind of like one of the stronger cards. I believe there is an Acilio card in the pack, but it's not quite as good as Path. And from there, I do a pretty early commit to Aurora. Feels like the drafters passing to me are drafting kind of like the generics and rares, and the class cards are mostly in the pack. So I'm picking up some solid class cards. And it's not really clear to me whether I'm supposed to be Aurora or Acilio, but they both seem relatively open, and I started with the Path, so I just kind of stick to Aurora.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so your final deck is actually on the stream as well. It got posted. And we kind of see that this deck is like a very generic Aurora deck. Nothing special, but we do see one really cool card in here was Temptress Kiss. This is a card that I didn't really get to playtest too much during just like drafting in general. How powerful is Temptress Kiss in this format?
It is very strong. It's sort of like a must block, so you tend to get full tempo. You can either play it out immediately when you see it and just kind of force your opponent on the defensive, which if your deck has enough kind of like go again and threats to keep that momentum going can be pretty good. Or my preferred play pattern with it, which I don't think I actually ever got to do in any of my games, is to arsenal it and set it up for a following turn where you can have a really big turn where maybe you start with an embodiment and then you get to like Temptress Kiss, Force Blocks, Aurora, or use like a quick succession or something, and really push damage and on hits from there. I don't think this actually came up. I think I used it more in the tempo way in my games, but yeah, I think it's one of the bigger bombs in the set, but I also think the set's bombs are not. There's no germinates or manifestations of Miragai. It's a very good card. It stands out. It's very powerful, but it's not like the game's over on the spot.
Yeah. Okay.
I will say Temptover was incredible for me as well. Also a Majestic. On stream against Dilks, I get to steal his Ponder. I'm not able to use the Ponder, but I get to deny him a full card. So it's kind of like a 0 for 6. And then not on stream, but my final game against Ziggy, I turn 0 Temptover, steal his Lightning Flow, make it into an embodiment. And then he told me after the game that his turn going second was he had red Pulsing Cardia, red Auric Shards, but he couldn't Auric Shards because he didn't have a Lightning Flow. So he had to pitch the Auric Shards, and yeah, that was very good for me.
Oh, that's disgusting. Yeah, this kind of format is like based off having the first flow already given to you. So, man, I guess when you take that flow and use it for yourself, that is disgusting.
Yeah, so Temptover was also strong, and yeah, otherwise, very solid Aurora deck is what I would say. Nothing like super crazy, but very solid.
Okay, makes sense. So in this draft, you ended up going 2-1, picking up your first loss, right? So you're, what is this, 10-0, 10-1? 10-1 going into the CC rounds. There's 4 more CC rounds to go after this draft. And a bunch of these games are also on stream, as you said earlier. What was the record that the PT players needed to make the top 8 of this event?
It was a clean cut at X3 to make top 8. So basically needed to go 2-2 in CC, which I was feeling good about, of course. It's like you need to go 2-2, then you top 8 the Pro Tour. That's about as good as it gets in terms of like ease. But of course, when you're playing very strong players, even going 2-2 is not a given. And so I wouldn't say that I was like overly confident, or anything. I just was like, yep, I'm in a good spot. I need to just like keep going, keep doing well. I pair into Acilio Felipe, who ends up making the finals. That game is on stream. Does not quite go my way. He finds it pretty early, gone in a flash. My turns are solid, but not quite good enough. I think there's like turns where if I have disruption, I can get there. I also have a Codex of Frailty where I ponder a blue and choose not to arsenal it. Whether I arsenal it, there's an argument to arsenaling it. There's an argument to not. I think regardless of if I arsenal it or not, I'm not going to quite get there that game, though. I think if I ponder a solid red there, though, I have a shot in that game. So Yeah, I think his draws were just slightly too good, and my draws were just slightly too weak. It was pretty close. I believe I had him down to 3. I just couldn't quite press for lethal. So yeah, I was pretty happy with how I played. I think the Aggro Acilio deck can be very close matchup, and this is just one of the ways those games can play out.
Yeah, yeah, that's just unfortunate. It's like some of these aggro mirrors, you're just like not gonna be able to do much as if you ponder a blue, right? So,
Yeah.
I guess the question would be like, these marionette decks were heavier on blue than kind of like what we saw in the past. Like, what kind of made these decks play a little bit more blues than in the past?
Yeah, there's a few things in operation. One of them is that I have a few sideboard blues actually, where I'm typically boarding out a couple blues, like playing 10-ish of my 12. And that's because of Unmake the Underlings. I was on 3 copies for Gravy Bones. But even 10 blues, 10 to 11 blues in a matchup is a little on the high end. And the other reason for this is Command and Conquer is in my list. I believe Jacob also ended up on a copy of Command and Conquer. The 2 costs are a little bit awkward in Marionette, but this format is actually very D-React heavy. So having an anti-D-React card as a Codex target feels very powerful. And Command and Conquer put in some work for me. So yeah, I think partially CNC, partially Unmake the Underlings is why you have more blues. And then your blue base has also shifted a little bit to have more mark with Reaper's Call, the discard mark them stealth card, and then Relentless Pursuit, the generic that you can play out and mark them. And if you've attacked, it goes to the bottom of your deck. Those have become very important because of the abundance of the prevention effects that exist in the format.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I guess Ominous Ward. Sorry, what is that card called? Is it Ominous Ward?
Yeah, Omnizord. Yeah.
Yeah, that boot, the new boot slot, seems very strong into Arachne Marionette. So yeah, it does kind of make sense that you do have to play the Blue Reaper's Call just to make sure that you have like some way to mark your opponent in the early game, right?
Yeah. The interesting thing is that you kind of create these early games where if they pop their equipment to mark you, to prevent your mark, and you mark them anyways, you're kind of really far ahead because you eat their equipment kind of for free. And I think that some players in some spots were kind of letting the first mark through and then saving it to stop something like a saver later in the game, which I think was the stronger strategy. It's hard to say. It's very contextual. I think there's spots where it is good to stop the initial mark as well. But there was kind of this like sub game of like, when exactly do you stop the mark? And yeah, that was kind of interesting.
Nonetheless, stopping a mark at one point when they need it is strong. So
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then I guess we already know the results. You end up coming 9th after all of your losses at the CC round. But I guess it was a clean cut. So like it's kind of hard to say that, you got unlucky or anything like that. You just did need to win one more game, right?
Yeah, there's like a few things. I needed to win one more game. I think the Gravy game I lost, which isn't on stream, was like a little bit of a heartbreaker. I was in a great spot. I got to flick and present what would be lethal after they had already de-reacted. And I think my opponent actually thought that I had the game locked up, but then they're like, wait, I should Gravy activation. And then they found Oasis Respite off the top, which saved them. And from there, I rolled Trapdoor, which is the worst roll. I think any other roll is very good for me. Trapdoor is very bad for me. I check. I have no traps. And this is kind of like probably my biggest regret from the tournament. I decide to shuffle after thinking about it for a while and pick a card because I think like maybe he won't attack me if I get a trap to dilute my trapdoor value. This is a little bit silly though because it's Gravy, so he just cracks a gold, spends the 1 resource to swing an ally, and then arsenals a card anyways. And I end up shuffling my deck and shuffling a bunch of blues in because I have about 20-ish cards left. So my turn's too weak, and then he gets to leyline me, and the game spirals from there. Had I not shuffled, I would have drawn cut to the point with him marked and get to threaten 9 with reactions up to 13 when he's at 5, and I get a look at his hand. Probably don't win on the spot, but I think I get tempo and I'm in a very good spot from there. So that is easily my biggest regret in the tournament. Just I think there's like a lot of these points in Fab where like doing the cute thing where you try to mind game your opponent is usually not worth it. You should just do the play that's good for you. And I'm pretty disappointed about this. I don't think it's like the hugest misplay in the world, but I think it definitely cost me in this spot. And I think this was the game that I could have salvaged of all the games. Because yeah, my other winning in into Jacob Clemens is just like kind of cursed. It's a marionette mirror. Things go his way. They don't go mine. And it just kind of is what it is. But that one I felt like I could have won. And I might have had a losing in if I won that game, because Noah had a losing in the last round. And there was a very small chance after I lost that I could have top eighted if Alexander Vor lost his, he had a pair down. If he lost his pair down, I believe I would have bubbled in at 8th, but he paired Arcane Acilio into Kasai, so I don't think there was a world he was going to lose that round.
Okay. Yeah, so when it is a clean cut, you know, you just have to win one more. It's not like you lost on breakers. So, You know what, though? Still great run for you, Yuki. 9th place at a PT is, it's literally as good as it gets and not top 8 the event.
Yeah, that's true. Was hoping for the back-to-back top 8. If I had done it, then both Hamilton and I would have done it, which would have been hype. But yeah, did not quite get there. But still very pleased with the weekend. Yeah, the one misplay into Marionette, or sorry, into Gravy is like the big regret. But other than that, I think I played very well.
Okay, awesome. Let's quickly talk about some of the decks that ended up top 8ing. We already talked about most of them, but let's do a quick overview. A lot of these people who ended up in this top 8 are kind of like names that we recognize. So we have 3 Acilio, Majin Bay, Alexander Vor, and Felipe on Acilio. We end up 2 Betsy's, Jonathan Magnuson and Bryce. Oh, I don't know his last name. Storix? Do you think I said that right?
I think that's right, but I'm not sure.
Okay, hopefully that's right. And then we have a Jarl on Michael Hamilton. We have Jacob Clemens on Marionette and Noah Clark on Gravy Bones. So, you know what? We said this was a diverse metagame. Other than the 2 Betsy that was kind of out of left field, these were the decks that people thought were going to be powerful, and they kind of proved to be right. Like, these were the decks that are powerful. Acilio, Marionette, Jarl, the 3 most represented decks in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely kind of ended up shaking out the way that you would expect, but early on in the tournament, you saw a whole wide range of things, with, of course, the wrinkle that there was 3 different Acilio decks in top 8 that were all... Felipe's was like pretty traditional aggro. Alexander Vor's and Majin Bay's were both mono arcane, but Majin Bay had a lot more D-reacts and a lot more D-reacts, and Alexander Vor had more like Flashbolts instance, was playing Starplate, so a little bit more like prevention effects play on your turn style deck. But yeah, both arcane.
And I guess one of the first matchup was Majin Bay versus Alexander Vor, and with your description, I think I would favor Alexander Vor's variant of Acilio into the arcane Acilio mirror, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think Vor's deck was definitely better in the mirror, although it was interesting when we were testing it. I was helping Majin Bay test, and it was actually a lot closer than you would have thought. We kind of looked and we're like, oh, this is doomed. It's just the same deck, but more tools into the mirror. But those tools cost resources, and you can still just draw all reds. And it kind of felt like Sigil of Solace and how your red hands line up into their big damage hands. Like if they have a big damage hand and you have like blue, you're in a great spot. And if you have to eat a bunch of damage and your turn back is not that great, you kind of fall behind. And that's kind of what happened to Caleb in this game. Vor just drew lots of Sigil Solaces, lots of efficient turns, and he kind of stumbled on all reds a few times. So yeah, matchup probably Alexander Vor's variant favored, but not by as much as you might think, I would say. And maybe not by as much as the top 8 game appeared.
Okay, okay. So pretty high variance matchup in general then.
Yeah, I think so. I think it can kind of spiral, and it was hard to identify exactly like what made the game go one way or another. We're often like, I don't know why this deck won, but I do think it was kind of like to do with resources lining up and where your efficient turns are, and can they afford to stop it or not.
Okay. And then the other game that I wanted to talk about, because you guys are also on the same team, is Jonathan Magnuson and Michael Hamilton's game on Betsy versus Jarl. Michael Hamilton on Jarl. Um, from talking to people around the venue during right before the top 8 games, what were you guys? I know the answer to this, but what were your guys' thoughts on this matchup, Betsy versus Jarl?
It seemed very good for Betsy. I think Hamilton had some ideas about what to try, but wasn't necessarily super confident going in. We had not been able to win the matchup in testing. I think Jonathan Magnuson probably played it better than our players who hadn't really played Betsy. Like he had some crazy CNC with a bunch of wagers turn that was very impactful. But honestly, I don't even know if it's needed in the matchup. I think just the log and all the defensive tools is very, very hard to overcome. It's possible you can build a Jarl deck that is able to have a better shot, but you're on the deck that you're on. I think you would need like more rouses, more sprout strengths, more aggression to really have a good shot of overcoming it. And then maybe you can do something in the pitch stack. But yeah, I felt like the Betsy deck had enough defensive tools that even if you try to like dominate, it just isn't really enough to push through.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was walking around just talking to people in general, and they're like, I don't know how Jarl, at least Michael Hamilton's exact build here, will win if Betsy ends up logging for 7 every single turn.
Yep.
And then they'll like eventually just, win the matchup because their weapon is 1 point stronger than Michael Hamilton's weapon.
Yeah. It did seem like you kind of have to do some sort of pitch stack, but it just felt like there wasn't really like a strong enough pitch stack. Um, yeah. I think maybe like rouses and maybe last ditch efforts could flip it because you can potentially get a lot of gold in the matchup as the Jarl, right? So like maybe you can set up some like rouse turn and like a couple rouse turns and end on like lead the charge hammer or something. So I think that there's like maybe ways you could solve this matchup if you're able to like deck build for it, but we did not have last ditch efforts or rouses, so yeah.
Yeah, it's as the Huntsman player, I keep on telling people Betsy is the absolute worst matchup for like fatigue Huntsman. And yeah, I think if Betsy ends up being like a meta contender in this format, then Last Ditch Effort might start seeing a lot more play than people expect.
Yeah, because you get a bunch of gold. So yeah, I think you to crack that matchup, you probably want to consider some kind of like very like high seas esque end game, right? Where you're just like, I'm gonna crack a bunch of gold, draw my whole deck, and then do something busted and try to win the game off of that. I think that's probably like what you need to do as a fatigue deck to beat Betsy. But I don't think Betsy was enough of a known quantity going into this event for people to have really like practiced that or even built their decks in a way to be able to execute that.
Yeah, because playing Last Ditch Effort is a very real cost for these decks, right?
Yeah. There's just much better cards you could use, whether that's like element cards to help Jarl Fuse or big attacks. You have a whole bunch of options you could play. So it's kind of like, why play Last Ditch Effort, especially if you think that you can already do well into Huntsman with Sludge. Just didn't really seem needed. But Yeah, I guess if there's lots of Betsies, then maybe you need to look at that more.
And then the last game to talk about here would probably be the finals games, which is Jacob Clements on Marionette versus Felipe on Acilio. Yeah, I guess I have to say congratulations on Jacob Clements for ending up like winning this game and becoming the like one of the most successful players of this like last 6 months or so. Like he's won UK nationals and he's won a bunch of callings and he's like always in these like top tables, top 8 events of callings, this PT nationals. What a run this guy is having.
Yeah, yeah. Jacob Clemens is in first place by a mile. Even before this, he was in first place by a mile on World Tour points, and it's only growing how far ahead he is. I think, Jacob is just having an incredible run. And huge shout out to Jacob. Just a very nice guy, very, very pleasant opponent, just a class act. So, yeah, very happy to see Jacob do so well. I believe this is his first tier 4 top 8, which is shocking considering what a strong player he is. But just goes to show how strong he is. Top 8 at tier 4, take the whole thing down. Yeah, not much else to say. Jacob's just been on an absolute tear.
Yeah, do you think he's locked for player of the year? He has 125 points, at least on the website.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it'll be very difficult. Like, someone would have to, either you or Brody would have to win Worlds, right?
Well, I think Worlds is worth like 45 points. So we'd have to win Worlds and a bunch of callings, and Jacob would have to not get many points. So I think realistically, I don't think anybody is going to pass Jacob, but the rest of the slots are actually kind of close.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. Yeah. Like you have a way of passing Brody, but I guess this race would be interesting if Brody ends up winning Worlds.
Yeah. He kind of needs to like first win like 3 callings or something, because I think you get like 10 points per calling, right? So I think he's at 57. That would put him at 87.
No, Brody after the 7 it's at 73 points.
Oh, okay, more than I thought. Okay. And then it's like 45 for winning Worlds. He need to win like 2 callings, win Worlds, and Jacob doesn't get points. Something around there. And I don't know how likely it is that Jacob doesn't get points. I think it's possible that he doesn't win more events, although with the way he's been going, who knows? But you would think that he's probably going to get at least a few more World Tour points in there.
Okay, so you're saying if he doesn't show up to Worlds and then takes the rest of the year off, then Brody might have a chance if he wins the World Championships. Amazing.
Yeah, it is kind of wild how far ahead Jacob is in the race.
Yeah, well, congrats to him for most likely being the player of the year after this finals win. So, man, what a run.
Yeah.
Okay, then that is kind of like everything we want to talk about for PT Las Vegas. We're not going to talk about the calling today, mostly because I am a little bit tighter on time today. But we will definitely be talking about some more meta, CC meta game things next week. Is there a calling this weekend?
Yeah, they're calling Edinburgh, I believe, this weekend.
Okay, then most likely our next week's episode, we're going to be end up talking about both calling Las Vegas a little bit and calling Edinburgh. Calling Edinburgh is CC, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, yes, it is. Pretty excited to see kind of like after this PT, do you think Betsy will become a real player in the format? More people playing this deck?
I think it might. I haven't really played into the deck enough to know for sure, but it was sort of funny because as I was leaving, Ellie put together the Betsy deck and had been playing it a bit, and kind of throughout the week she was messaging me and she's like, wow, this deck's so sweet, it's doing so well. I thought this matchup would be bad for me, but then you just keep swinging the log and it's so good. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then 2 of them in top 8, I'm like, maybe I should have I got that she thought it was good. I didn't know that it was quite put 2 copies in top 8 of the Pro Tour good though.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, I don't have a strong read, but yeah, it does seem like the deck might be the real deal. It'll be interesting to see how it holds up to people targeting it and practicing against it. But you do a pretty fundamentally powerful thing, and just like you got to play a lot of cards that block well. You have a super good end game. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, of logging your opponent.
Yeah, you just beat them with the log until they can't play the game anymore.
Yeah, it's
Pretty good.
really powerful. Like, man, of all of the keywords with evasion, overpowered was not impressive, like, from my point of view. Overpowered being just like, oh, like it's like actually not too hard to block cards with overpowered, right? Because defense reaction works. Like you can block with your attack reactions, you can block with your equipment. It's like it's not like dominate where it feels like it's real disruption. Overpowered doesn't feel like it's real disruption. Let's say like a little bit more than half the time it feels like it doesn't really have you know the disruption portion of it. But when they swing overpowered 10 times, on the ninth time, on the 10th time, you are out of reactions at this point. Like you are just like you do not have any more ways. Like you're looking at 4 attack reactions. Sorry, looking at 4 attack actions in your hand now, and you're like these logs are unblockable at this point. Like you end up running out if you play long enough, and swinging overpowered enough. So I was kind of impressed to see that overpowered being a real type of disruption by the sorry a real type of evasion, like even closer to the second cycle. So yeah, like Betsy Endgames is like way stronger than I think people actually expect.
Yeah, it does really add up over time. And also, when you play such a long game, you're just bound to get these hands where, like, like think about Huntsman. Like, maybe you theoretically can block this, but like, it can just make your blocks awkward too. Where, like, if you have 3 attack actions and like cut to the chase, it's like, okay, I can use my cut to the chase to block this, but then like my attack actions don't really convert how they want, and the card that helps me convert is the cut to the chase. But like, really, I wish I could block with 2 of these attack actions, and you just like can't do that. So,
Ooh, cut to
so
the
there's also that.
chase. You can't block with cut to the chase with overpower.
That's what I'm saying. You can.
Huh?
It's a
No,
reaction, right?
cut to the chase. Oh, cut to the chase. Yeah, 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 yeah. Sorry, sorry. I
Yeah,
was thinking
yeah.
about cut from the same cloth, which is
No, no,
an action
no.
card.
For Huntsman.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have these weird spots where like maybe you can block, but if it's like an attack reaction, that might be actually a card that you like wish you could use in offense. And it's sort of like, oh, do I block with this card or convert it on offense? But like really you wish you could block like 2 attack actions and keep the reaction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really funny where it's like I think the day that Ellie was messaging about the Betsy, she was like I think it was her first time playing into my Huntsman list, and I ended up with like 9 or 7 gold, some like high number of gold, and I'm just looking at these gold tokens, and I'm just like, I can't do anything with these gold tokens. Like I can draw 6 cards, it doesn't do anything in the end game for me. I can swing dagger. Like what do you want me to do with 7 golds?
Yeah. And I do think that will be kind of the way to potentially attack this deck. We touched on it, but yeah, if you can make a big pitch stack with enough go again and do like a 25 damage turn or whatever, like maybe that is a way forward.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so we'll just wrap it up here then. Um, Anything else you wanna say before we close out the episode, Yuki?
I don't think so. Just yeah, shout out to the team. People helped me out a lot. I don't think I could have done what I was doing without you. And shout out to everybody who came up and said hi. It was really nice to meet you, chat. Overall, pretty good weekend. I was very pleased with it. I'm looking forward. I just want to play the next Tier 4, but it's not until November in Paris. So have to wait a little bit. New set, whole bunch of stuff coming out. I guess that's something else that we can talk about potentially in the coming week is the new set. I'm sure that we will get to it sooner than later, but yeah, not enough time for it this week. I guess I'll just say Viscera looks really cool. I'm excited.
I'm excited for the new necromancer.
I'm also excited for Malice. Yeah, they both look sweet. This feels like kind of like, I don't know if you get this vibe. These feel like old school Fab hero designs a little bit to me in a way that is very exciting.
Oh yeah, it feels like a new hero has come out.
Yeah, yeah. So I think this set's gonna have impact. I'm excited to talk spoilers. I'm excited to see more spoilers, but yeah, that will have to be for another week. Um, I guess we'll wrap it up here. Good luck to you if you have an event coming up, Calling Edinburgh, Battlegrounds, whatever it may be. Hope that you found this episode interesting, entertaining, helpful, and good luck in any of your events. We'll see you all next week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on social media. Jay is at Ueda J on Twitter. I'm at Yuki Bender on Twitter, as well as Blue Sky, and we are on the Bobble. We are patreon.com/on the Bobble if you want to check out our Patreon and message us on Discord.
Sign off. I guess on the subject of PT Las Vegas, very quick sign off. Oh, this was I think by far my worst Las Vegas trip I've ever had in my life. Go down a couple days early, and in the first day that I land there, I think I'm down close to like 3K US.
Oof.
And then for the rest of the week, I am kind of playing every game of Flesh and Blood side events to try and eat dinner or lunch to make sure I can pay for food the next day. And man, I was playing out of my mind in a lot of these games. Oh, I was like making like, you know, insanely good decisions, just like having the best bluffs, having really good arsenals, having really great pitch stacks. Just like I don't think I've played better than I've played in the side events of the this pro tour than I have played in like last year. It
I feel like I would advise you to do that for like a tier 4 or something, except that I don't know if I would have. I mean, I guess like at that point you're not really playing to eat, and also I would hope that you're just able to eat. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. That would be motivation. I don't know if it's like advisable, but like, it's, yeah, I'm glad you were motivated and you played well.
Yeah, no, it's been a while since I've actually had that scenario. When I was like younger, when I was playing Magic the Gathering, I was like in similar spots where I would go down to trips with like, $5 or $10 to my name, and every single match mattered for like if I can like eat a good dinner that day or if I'm eating like, you know, one junior chicken or something. And it kind of like it felt like I was like back in those like days of like every single game at a side event actually matters and I need to play really well. And it felt really high stakes for me for the even for these side events games. So it was actually I had a lot of fun playing. It wasn't even for my opponent high stakes, but it was just like high stakes just for myself. And I ended up going, I think I didn't drop a single game in the side events. The only game I dropped in the side event was round 1 of a Sunday event. So I ended up dropping from. Sorry, I did lose some Sage Sage games during the showdown, but I was talking about just the CC, and I was playing the CC Fate Foreseen double prizing constructed, but it was right after I dropped from the showdown. And after I dropped from the showdown, I'm watching Yuki's game in the showdown, and then she has this like really interesting pitch stack with her Briar list into a fatigue Oldham. And I think Yuki's fatigued, but like she has like I don't know how many lines she had. She had like 4 lines, 5 lines, maybe like 6 different lines she can take. and I just got like so invested in this like last hand that she had that she could end up like pitch stacking or blocking to keep her life total. There's too much going on in that one hand that I can't even explain it in this like short sign off. But long story short, I end up just like looking at this hand for maybe 6 minutes, 5 minutes, something like that. I forget that my round started, and I'm like 10 minutes late to my first round of this double prize event, and I get the tardiness penalty and a loss. So that was my one loss with my huntsman list in at the the CC side events this weekend. Costed me $40 or something, 30 some dollars. Oh my god.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, that was a really interesting hand though. So maybe someday we'll talk about it. We probably won't talk about it, but yeah, I love pitch stack scenarios with Briar. Briar has so much play; it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Briar is a lot of fun. The Oldham matchup. It's like fun and interesting, but man, it's so bad.
Really, I really enjoy playing Briar into Oldham. I kind of find it really fun because like the whole
I
game.
enjoy it. It's just like your win rate is not good.
Yeah, you're probably only winning like 20% of the time or something, but like
When
you
you
get
do
to.
win, it feels really good. That's what I'll
Yeah,
say.
like you worked for it. Like you like actually made it happen, Like that's what it is.
Yeah, you kind of have to like play out of your mind and have things line up just right. And if you do, you might get there.
Yeah, I think if you actually play out of your mind, you do get there a lot of the times, Like if you can pitch tap like double Arcane Seed's life, or like if you can like set up like a burn up shock that in your pitch stack early enough. You still have to draw these cards in order, but like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I think it's possible. I think it's like
It's definitely possible. It's just not easy.
yeah, it isn't easy. Okay. That's all I wanted to say for the sign off. So yeah, good luck to you guys in the rest of the year almost. We are only coming up only tier fours is worlds, is that right?
Yeah.
Man, this year is it's only July and it feels like it's already the end of the year. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good night, everyone. See you around.
Good night.